Continuing to follow the breaking news out of Major League Baseball, we have our first major move ahead of the trade deadline. On the same day the Diamondbacks said they would be sellers, they traded first baseman Josh Naylor to the Mariners. Seattle sending two pitching prospects to Arizona, Brandon Garcia and Ashton Izzy, both top 20 in the Mariners organization. Naylor hitting .292, 11 home runs, 59 RBI this season, and he doesn't strike out a lot, which is extremely valuable when you head into the postseason, right? He was an all-star last year with Cleveland, 31 homers, 108 RBIs, traded last winter to Arizona. He's a free agent after this season, but this is an instant upgrade. And you want to talk about instant upgrade? Well, Mariners first basemen this season ranked 23rd in batting average, 18th in OPS. Josh Naylor, 3rd in batting average, 11th in OPS in all of baseball. Get some instant analysis. Welcome in CBS Sports MLB writer Matt Snyder. Matt, this is an instant upgrade for Seattle. Your instant reaction here, Josh Naylor to the Mariners.
Well, I was pretty fired up about it for multiple reasons. First of all, let's kind of get the ball rolling here a little bit. We haven't really seen any big moves. Now we finally got one, and it shows. I know the Diamondbacks talked about it earlier today, but now we know they are truly open for business, and that means Eugenio Suarez, Zach Gallen, Merrill Kelly, probably all three also on the move. So a little bit of an intrigue there on where those guys are going to go, but we can also focus on this move. And as you said, big hole at first base for the Mariners. Instantly throwing Josh Naylor in there at first base. You've got an above-average performer. Now, I know he hit 31 home runs last year, but that's not nearly as indicative of who he is as a hitter compared to batting average guy. On base percentage, he's going to take those walks. And as you said, Hakeem, not striking out. Just to have a first baseman, especially when you see a guy who's bulky like that and you know he has power, you would think, oh man, he probably strikes out a ton. But he does not strike out that much, and he hits for average and he takes his walks. It's kind of weird, but going to be very valuable for the Mariners in their offense. They are a high-volume strikeout team. At least they have been to this point. You throw Naylor in at first base where they haven't gotten much offense at all. You don't add that many strikeouts to the lineup. This is a very intriguing move.
Where are you hitting Josh Naylor in the lineup? Are you hitting him behind the big dumper?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, we talked about that before we got on the air, and my initial thought was you can put that on base percentage in front of Cal Raleigh, get another guy on base for Raleigh, but you've got J.P. Crawford, who's a lefty there, Julio Rodriguez in the two-hole. You could always drop Rodriguez down, but then you've got lefty before Raleigh. I think leaving Julio in the two-hole there with Naylor or with Raleigh and then Naylor would be really good for helping Julio improve. And the Mariners do need him to hit better in the second half if they have designs on the AL West. And then you drop Randy Arozarena down to the 5-hole. And remember, just recently he hit 10 home runs in 14 games there, an all-star season for him. Now you're looking at a quality top 5 there, not toward the top of the league or anything. Crawford and Julio to this point haven't been good enough to say that, but 3, 4, 5, Raleigh, Naylor, Arozarena, really impressive.
Well, you got to think too, right? Seattle does not want to waste what will be the greatest season by a catcher in MLB history. So you got to make moves. He's still very young in his career. Josh Naylor's only 28 years old, and I get it. It's a rental unless you decide to extend him beyond this season. But this might be a long-term option for them. Now, that's down the road here. But when you look at what Josh Naylor gives you, Matt, this is a huge need that's filled here at first base. Less strikeouts. Only a dozen qualified hitters strike out less often than Josh Naylor. So, I mean, this is a guy that's going to get on base. He's going to make things happen. There's going to be ducks on the pond. When you look at this move for Seattle, what does this tell you about where they're headed right now, firmly in the wild card race?
Oh, I think they have designs on the American League West as well. They're definitely firmly in the wild card race, but there's always a chance that they could run the Astros down there. And if they do that, then all of a sudden, you never know. Maybe the bye's in play. As bad as the Tigers look right now, they got destroyed tonight. They've lost 10 out of 11. You never know if all of a sudden one of those bye spots is open then, if they could run the Astros down. Doesn't look like anybody's going to play with the Blue Jays at this point, but we know how that goes. Hot and cold throughout the season. The Mariners definitely have a chance to win the American League West, and while that is not likely, they do have a grasp on that wild card spot, and we know from seeing the Rangers 2 years ago in this format, you can win the World Series from from the wild card spot. And I do want to say another thing here. Obviously, I didn't have this all planned out because I just found out Naylor was traded and hustled home and came on here. But another thing that occurs to me, as I mentioned, I know he hit the 31 home runs last year, but that's not really what his game is all about. That just makes me like this move more for the Mariners because T-Mobile Park suppresses power more than any other park in all of baseball. And if they got a guy who's just a power hitter, let's say a Pete Alonso type, if they would have signed Pete Alonso in the offseason, and then he loses his home runs, kind of loses almost all of his game. Like, remember a long time ago, Richie Sexson going there, for example. If you take just the home run away from somebody, that's all they do, the player kind of loses his personality at the plate. Well, Josh Naylor is an average hitter who gets on base and provides some power, and he doesn't strike out. So the power is just a small component of his entire offensive game, and I really think that he could thrive in this lineup because, yeah, he'll lose some home runs, but that's not what he's all about.
You said Richie Sexson. They're also a Cleveland guy, too, that ended up playing with the Seattle Mariners. Josh Naylor, this guy, like, I say this with all respect. I covered him in Cleveland. He's a psycho. Like, when the game, he is locked in. Like, we saw him in 2022 against the White Sox, the whole thing, like, they fed me. He becomes a little bit of a villain. Then he's rocking the baby against Garrett Cole in 2022. Yeah. And he's sort of that bravado, that personality's kind of softened a little bit since he went to Arizona. Not as boisterous, but then we've seen when they celebrate post-game, he gets upset, and there's a meme out there of him where he looks like, he's just pulling the late shift at, like, a fast food chain. Like, this guy plays Major League Baseball. He loves the game. I can tell you that. He loves the game, and now he's going to get resuscitated. His career, he's going to feel new energy going to Seattle. Yeah. And now that you get this kind of player who has playoff experience in a young locker room, that's invaluable.
And Randy Arozarena has that as well. And I also think Arozarena is the type of guy who can play with a little bit of a swagger and a little bit of an edge too. And I think Cal Raleigh has that in him. You can kind of start setting up where you could see this could be more than, kind of as you alluded to there, this could be more than just his numbers, injecting him into the offense. This could be an injection of personality into the clubhouse that other guys rally around. Arozarena and Naylor have both been deep into the playoffs. They can talk to a lot of the young guys about that. I think there are a lot of different ways in which this could be a really, really big move for the Mariners. And just upon first glance, it doesn't really even look like they gave that much up. Obviously, a first baseman heading to free agency, you're not going to get a ton if you're the Diamondbacks. But like from the Mariners' perspective, kind of seems like a no-brainer deal. They really needed a first baseman. There weren't that many first basemen known to be out there. If any other teams were going to be bidding on a first baseman, Naylor was going to be the first guy that they looked at. The Mariners went out and said, we're going to get ahead of everybody else. We're going to grab Naylor right now. I think it's a great move.
How much does this deal getting done between Seattle and Arizona, how much does it perhaps aid Seattle in acquiring Geno Suarez? Because the top destination for Suarez, according to the rumors and reports here, has been the New York Yankees. But now if Seattle and Arizona have already made a deal and they could go get Geno Suarez, who is a former M himself.
Yeah.
But are you concerned that deal would have got done at the same time, or do you think that, hey, they could still go back and make a deal with Arizona after they already got one done? You'd think that it would be almost a package deal. Like, how do you think this plays out?
I know it's different in the offseason, but remember, the Cubs traded for Kyle Tucker, and then 3 or 4 weeks later, they traded for Ryan Presley. If you're familiar with the front office and you just made a move with them and you talk a lot with each other, yeah, you can always go back. You can circle back. We don't know for sure if Jerry DiPoto and Mike Hazen discussed Eugenio Suarez or if they just said, let's just do Naylor now. And Hazen said, look, I'm going to have 6, 7 teams ringing my phone off the hook about Suarez. Can we just do Naylor now and circle back? And DiPoto probably said yes, because DiPoto loves to talk trade, and he'll talk to anybody about any trade. So I don't think this moves the needle either way on that. Like, I don't think, if they were going to get Naylor, they would have had to do Suarez in the same deal. No, that's not true. But I don't think it necessarily gives them an advantage. And I don't think it's a disadvantage at all either. I think it's just, hey, he could circle back. There's another week to go here. Yeah, they can still go back and get him. I wouldn't say they're the favorites or anything. I think that teams are going to be more desperate, and the Diamondbacks are going to get more out of somebody like the Cubs or the Yankees.
Who's more likely to get dealt next, Suarez, Gallen, or Merrill Kelly?
I think that they're going to probably Zach Gallen. I'll say Gallen because he's not having the best year, and there are a lot of teams who are desperate to not have to plug their rotation up another time through. And I think that Hazen is going to be content to let the offers roll in for Suarez until July 31st. I think he's going to be a last day guy.
This is going to be interesting. I as a broadcaster and a fan, I hope that they leave a couple morsels for us, a couple crumbs next Thursday. We don't want everything to be done ahead of time. It's nice to get one now, maybe one over the weekend or whatever. But like, you know, we want to have activity on the deadline. Like, right?
We need a big deadline day. Absolutely. I could see it. Like, there were a lot of teams in limbo, including the Diamondbacks, just a few days ago, looking like, man, is this all going to have to happen on July 31st? Well, no, we got one on July 24th, but there's still a waiting game for a lot of teams who look like they might be sellers.
All right, Matt Snyder here on CBS Sports HQ. Stay by the computer, stay by the Zoom call. All right, so here's a look at the reported trade details. The Mariners get an instant upgrade, getting Josh Naylor. Again, he ranks 3rd in batting average, 11th in OPS in all of baseball this season. And the D-backs are going to get a couple of pitching prospects in Brandon Garcia and Ashton Izzy, both top 20 in the Seattle organization. For the Mariners, who are firmly in the wild card race, an instant upgrade at first base.